In the dilapidated bus terminal of Millbrook Heights, a once thriving industrial city, now forgotten by prosperity, a boy wandered among cracked benches and outdated signage. The terminal, a relic of better days, stood as a monument to the city's decline, its walls stained with decades of exhaust fumes and neglect. Tyler Mason was skinny, his feet dirty from walking barefoot on the gritty floor, but his eyes remained wide open, like windows to a persistent hope that refused to dim. His presence, though silent, seemed to bother the few travelers who still used this crumbling transportation hub. He didn't beg for money, nor did he cause any trouble. He simply observed, taking in the world around him with quiet intensity. Nobody knew exactly where Tyler had come from. Some said he had escaped from an abusive home in the neighboring county. Others claimed he had gotten lost trying to find his mother in another city. The truth was that he spoke very little. But when he did, it was with conviction. He needed to go home. And home was a place that only existed with one person, the woman who always told him that storms don't last forever. The terminal's fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows across the worn linoleum floor. Most of the ticket counters were permanently closed, with only two still operating to serve the dwindling number of passengers. The air smelled of cleaning chemicals that failed to mask the underlying scent of decay. This was where Tyler had been living for the past 3 weeks, sleeping behind the vending machines at night and wandering the concourse during the day. Through the wide windows, Tyler could see the once bustling main street of Millbrook Heights. The storefronts were mostly vacant now, their windows either boarded up or plastered with for lease signs. The city had lost its economic engine when the automotive plants closed down 15 years ago, sending thousands of jobs overseas. What remained was a shell of a community struggling to reinvent itself, but caught in the perpetual purgatory of American post-industrialism. Amidst the sparse crowd of hurried passengers, a man in a perfectly tailored suit appeared, dragging a gleaming leather suitcase behind him. Richard Whitman, CEO of Whitman Development Corp., had the expression of someone who was always late for something more important than other people's concerns. His company had recently purchased several properties in downtown Millbrook Heights, with plans to demolish the historic buildings and construct luxury condominiums that no local could afford. He spotted Tyler sitting on the floor near one of the ticket counters, and as if seeing a threat to the aesthetics of his path, delivered a sharp kick to the boy's leg, shouting, "Get out of here, kid, this place isn't for you." The few people waiting for their buses averted their eyes. They pretended not to see, pretended not to hear. Tyler fell to his side without screaming, without reacting. He merely stared at the man, and then with tearful eyes he slowly stood up. His thin frame straightened with a dignity that seemed incongruous with his ragged appearance. It was at this moment that something rare happened. Not a miracle, not a fantasy, but a coincidence with an almost cinematic impact. A white horse led by an elderly man who offered tourist rides in the central area of the city was passing by the street in front of the terminal. The animal, for some reason, stopped next to the sidewalk, and Tyler, as if by instinct, walked towards it. Walter Thompson, a 73-year-old former factory worker who had started his horse riding business after the plant closure, didn't say a word. He simply made a slight gesture with his head, and the boy climbed up with surprising agility. Some people began to rise from their seats, curious about the unfolding scene. The arrogant suited man looked at everything with disbelief and sarcasm, but now he had lost the focus of others' attention. For the first time, someone had stopped. Someone had noticed. "You okay there, son?" Walter asked quietly, his weathered hand steadying Tyler on the horse's back. The boy nodded, a single tear rolling down his cheek. "I saw what happened," Walter continued. "Some folks think money buys them the right to treat others like dirt." Tyler didn't respond, but his small hand gently stroked the horse's mane. The animal, named Skylar, remained perfectly still, as if understanding the significance of the moment. Amanda Chen, a college student waiting for her bus to return to Fairfield University, had been recording the entire incident on her phone. From the moment Richard kicked Tyler to the boy mounting the majestic white horse, she captured it all. Without hesitation, she uploaded the video to her social media accounts with the caption, Millbrook Heights 2023, where cruelty meets dignity. That's the White Horse Boy. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours it had been shared thousands of times across multiple platforms. Local news stations picked it up by evening, and by the next morning even national media outlets were running segments about the White Horse Boy of Millbrook Heights. The story resonated with people in a way that few viral moments do. It wasn't just outrage or entertainment. It was a perfect encapsulation of contrasting American realities: wealth versus poverty, cruelty versus compassion, indifference versus action. Meanwhile, Walter had taken Tyler to Horizon House, a shelter for at-risk youth run by a non-profit organization on the east side of town. "This boy needs help," Walter explained to Marcus Daniels, the shelter's intake coordinator. "Something happened at the bus terminal. People are talking about it already." Marcus, a former philosophy professor who had left academia to work directly with vulnerable populations, nodded thoughtfully. At 45, with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes, behind wire-rimmed glasses, he had seen many children come through these doors. But something about Tyler's quiet demeanor struck him immediately. "What's your name?" Marcus asked, kneeling down to meet Tyler at eye level. "Tyler," the boy replied softly. "Just Tyler?" "Mason. Tyler Mason." "Well, Tyler Mason, let's get you something to eat and a place to rest. Then we can talk about what happens next." That night, as Tyler slept in a real bed for the first time in weeks, Marcus scrolled through his phone watching the video that had now been viewed millions of times. He saw the comments flooding in, the outrage, the calls for justice, the questions about who the boy was and what would happen to him. Marcus realized that Tyler wasn't just another case file anymore. He had become a symbol, a living metaphor for resilience in the face of callousness. And in that moment, Marcus made a decision that would change both their lives forever. He would help Tyler tell his story, not for virality or fame, but for truth. Because sometimes, he thought, looking at the sleeping boy, truth was the only weapon the powerless had against those who believed themselves untouchable. The morning light filtered through the blinds of Horizon House, casting golden stripes across Tyler's bed. It had been 3 days since the incident at the bus terminal, and the world outside seemed determined not to forget it. Marcus entered the small bedroom carrying a tray with toast, eggs, and orange juice. "Good morning, Tyler. Sleep well?" "The boy nodded, sitting up and accepting the food with careful hands. Marcus noticed how Tyler ate methodically, savoring each bite as if uncertain when the next meal would come. This was the behavior of someone who had learned to treasure scarcity. "There are some people who want to talk to you today," Marcus explained, sitting at the edge of the bed. "From Channel 7 News. They want to hear your story, but only if you feel ready." Tyler finished chewing a piece of toast before responding. "What would I say? Whatever you want. Whatever is true." The boy considered this for a moment, his eyes fixed on the remaining food. "I need to find my mum," he finally said. "She told me to wait for her at the bus station in Henderson, but I got on the wrong bus. I ended up here." Marcus nodded, making mental notes. This was the first concrete information Tyler had shared about his background. "Henderson? That's almost 200 miles from here. How long were you waiting at our terminal?" 23 days, Tyler replied without hesitation. "I counted." Marcus felt his heart tighten. 3 weeks alone, surviving in a decaying bus terminal, invisible to everyone until Richard Whitman's cruelty paradoxically gave him visibility. "Do you know your mom's full name or a phone number?" Tyler shook his head. "Just Mom. Sarah. She worked at the hospital, but she said if we ever got separated, I should wait where there are buses. That she would find me." The simplicity of the plan revealed its desperate nature. Marcus recognized the hallmarks of a family in crisis, perhaps eviction, financial hardship, or worse. "We'll help you find her, Tyler. I promise. But first, let's think about today. These reporters, they might help spread the word. Your mom could see you on TV." This possibility seemed to awaken something in Tyler. He straightened his shoulders and nodded. "Okay." 2 hours later, Lisa Wong from Channel 7 News sat across from Tyler in the shelter's small library. Cameras were set up, lights positioned, to create a warm, sympathetic atmosphere. Marcus stood just off camera, providing a reassuring presence. "So, Tyler," Lisa began after the preliminary introductions, "can you tell us what happened at the bus terminal?" Tyler looked directly at the camera, unintimidated by the equipment. "I was sitting near the ticket counter. A man in a nice suit came by. He kicked me and told me to get out." The straightforward account, delivered without drama or self-pity, had a powerful effect. Lisa nodded encouragingly. "And how did that make you feel?" Tyler considered the question. When you don't have anything, time becomes everything, and time is what hurts the most. The unexpected philosophical depth of his answer caught everyone off guard. Lisa blinked momentarily, forgetting her next question. "That's profound. Can you explain what you mean? When you're waiting and waiting and nothing changes, it's like the world is frozen, but everyone else is moving. They have somewhere to go, someone waiting for them." He paused. "The man who kicked me, he was in a hurry to be important. He just forgot that importance isn't measured by shoes." The crew exchanged glances. This was not typical interview material, especially from a child. Lisa continued, "Do you know who that man was?" "No, but he looked angry before he even saw me, like he was carrying something heavy that no one could see." As the interview progressed, Tyler revealed more about himself, that he was 10 years old, that he loved reading, though he'd had few opportunities, and that his mother had been a nurse's aide before things got hard. He spoke about nights in the bus terminal, how he'd learned to make himself invisible during the day and find safe corners to sleep at night. The segment aired that evening and immediately generated an unprecedented response. Social media exploded with reactions, hashtags like Chumcha, Tyler's Truth, and the White Horseboy trending nationwide. Clips of Tyler's philosophical observations were shared millions of times, often accompanied by commentary on American inequality, the invisibility of poverty, and the wisdom that can emerge from suffering. Marcus, recognizing the potential of this moment, began recording short videos of Tyler's daily life at the shelter. With the boys' permission, he posted them to a newly created account called Tyler's Journey. The videos weren't exploitative or sensationalized. They simply showed Tyler reading, helping with chores, or sharing his observations about life. In one particularly popular video, Tyler sat by a window during a rainstorm, watching the droplets race down the glass. "My mom says storms don't last forever," he said quietly. "But sometimes they feel like they do. I think that's why people give up. They forget that everything ends eventually." These moments of insight, delivered with childlike simplicity but profound understanding, resonated deeply with viewers. The account gained hundreds of thousands of followers within days. Somewhere in the digital audience was Amber Reynolds, a lifestyle influencer, with over 2 million followers who had built her brand on authenticity and social consciousness. Unlike many influencers who showcased only luxury and glamour, Amber had earned respect by using her platform to highlight social issues alongside her more commercial content. The story of Tyler Mason cut through her carefully curated feed one evening as she scrolled through her phone. She watched every video, on the Tyler's Journey account, then the news interview, then the original viral clip. By morning, she had made a decision. "I need to meet this boy," she told her assistant, already booking a flight to Millbrook Heights. Amber's arrival at Horizon House created a stir. Staff members and residents alike recognized the famous influencer, whose face graced billboards and magazine covers. But when she met Tyler in the shelter's common room, there was no entourage, no cameras, just Amber in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. "Hi, Tyler. I'm Amber," she said, sitting across from him at a worn table. "I've heard a lot about you." Tyler studied her face. "You look different than on the billboards." Amber laughed. "Yeah, they use a lot of lights and makeup for those. This is the real me. I like real better," Tyler said simply. The conversation that followed was unlike any Amber had experienced in her carefully managed public life. Tyler asked her questions no interviewer had ever posed. Are you happy with all those people watching you? And do you ever wish you could be invisible again? Instead of deflecting, Amber found herself answering honestly, revealing uncertainties and vulnerabilities she usually concealed beneath her polished image. After an hour, she requested a private meeting with Marcus. "I want to help Tyler," she stated firmly. "Not just with a donation. I want to finance his education, a good school, full-time, with whatever additional support he needs." Marcus removed his glasses, cleaning them thoughtfully. "That's incredibly generous, but this isn't about publicity," Amber interrupted. "I won't post about it, won't mention it in interviews. This is personal." She hesitated. "That boy, he sees things the rest of us miss. He deserves every opportunity." Marcus studied her face, looking for any sign of insincerity or opportunism. Finding none, he nodded slowly. "Tyler needs stability, not just education, and we're still trying to locate his mother." "Then let's do both," Amber replied. "Let's hire a private investigator to find her. In the meantime, let's give Tyler the foundation he needs." As they discussed the details, neither could have anticipated the storm that was brewing beyond the shelter's walls. Richard Whitman had seen the news. He had read the comments online. He had watched his name and reputation become tarnished by what he considered a grotesque misrepresentation. And now, in the polished conference room of his corporate headquarters, he was meeting with his legal team to discuss options. "I want them all sued," he declared, pacing the length of the mahogany table. "The news station, the shelter, everyone who shared that doctored video. This is a coordinated attack on my character and my business." His chief counsel, Elizabeth Porter, maintained a neutral expression. "Mr. Whitman, I must advise caution. The public sentiment is overwhelmingly against you. A lawsuit would only intensify scrutiny." Richard slammed his hand on the table. "I don't care about public sentiment. I care about justice. I never touched that boy." The lie hung in the air between them. Elizabeth knew better, but her job wasn't to challenge her client's version of events. "Very well, we'll prepare the paperwork." What no one in that room could predict was how this decision would set in motion a chain of events that would change, not just Tyler's life, but the very fabric of Millbrook Heights itself. As legal documents were being drafted across town, Tyler stood at his bedroom window, watching clouds gather on the horizon. "Another storm coming," he murmured to himself. And somehow, though he couldn't explain it, he sensed this one would be bigger than the last. The lawsuit landed like a thunderclap on the otherwise quiet Tuesday morning. Channel 7 News received the legal documents first, followed shortly by Horizon House. By noon, the story had broken across all local media. Developer Richard Whitman sues news station and youth shelter for defamation. Marcus stood in his small office, the legal papers spread across his desk, his face etched with concern. The shelter's director, Eleanor Washington, sat across from him, her normally composed demeanor showing cracks of worry. "He's claiming the video was doctored," Marcus said, his voice tight with disbelief. "That he never touched Tyler, never said those words. He's suing for $5 million in damages to his reputation and business interests." Eleanor's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her coffee mug. At 62, she had dedicated the last 20 years of her life to Horizon House, building it from a small operation into a respected institution that had helped hundreds of at-risk youth. Now this single lawsuit threatened to destroy everything. "We don't have the resources to fight this," she admitted. "Our legal fund is practically non-existent. If this goes to court..." She didn't need to finish the thought. They both knew what was at stake. Marcus removed his glasses, pinching the bridge of his nose. "The truth is on our side. The video clearly shows what happened. Truth needs defenders, Marcus, powerful ones, and those cost money we don't have." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft knock on the door. Tyler stood in the doorway, his thin frame silhouetted against the hallway light. "Is something wrong?" he asked, his perceptive eyes moving between the two adults. Marcus and Eleanor exchanged glances, silently debating how much to share with the boy. "Come in, Tyler," Eleanor finally said, gesturing to a chair. "There's something we need to talk about." Across town, in the gleaming offices of Channel 7 News, a similar scene was unfolding. Lisa Wong sat in the conference room with the station's executives and legal team. The lawsuit paperwork, dominating the table between them. "This is ridiculous," Lisa argued, her journalistic integrity flaring. "We reported the facts. The video speaks for itself." Stanley Morris, the station's general manager, looked less certain. "Our legal team thinks Whitman might have a case on technical grounds. The video was filmed by a bystander, not by us. We can't absolutely verify its authenticity." "So we're just going to back down?" Lisa demanded. "Throw the shelter and that boy under the bus?" Stanley's expression hardened. "We're a business, Lisa. Our advertisers are already nervous. Whitman Development is a major player in this region, with connections to several of our biggest sponsors. This isn't about business, this is about right and wrong. In this industry, they're often the same thing." By evening, the news of the lawsuit had spread throughout Millbrook Heights and beyond. Social media was ablaze with opinions, the hashtags now evolving. Stand with Tyler and Whitman lies competed with Dodger fake news and media manipulation. The story had become a battlefield in the larger cultural war, with Tyler unwittingly positioned at its center. At Horizon House, the immediate effects were devastating. 3 major donors called to temporarily pause their contributions until the legal issues were resolved. The county officials who had recently discussed increasing the shelter's annual grant now stopped returning Eleanor's calls. Even the volunteers began to dwindle, uncomfortable with the controversy. Amber Reynolds faced her own crisis. Her phone buzzed continuously with notifications, messages from her agent, her publicist, and worst of all, her sponsors. "This isn't what we signed up for," the email from Lux Beauty's marketing director read. "Our brand cannot be associated with this level of controversy. We expect you to distance yourself immediately." Similar messages arrived from her other major sponsors. The unspoken threat was clear: withdraw support from Tyler Mason and Horizon House, or lose the lucrative contracts that sustained her lifestyle and platform. Amber paced her hotel room, torn between professional survival and personal conviction. She had built her brand on authenticity, but had never been tested like this. Could she afford to stand by her promise to Tyler? The consequences rippled further. The private investigator Amber had hired to search for Tyler's mother quietly withdrew from the case, citing conflicting interests. The elite private school that had expressed interest in enrolling Tyler suddenly found that their curriculum might not be suitable for his particular needs. Even Walter Thompson, the elderly man with the white horse, received anonymous threats warning him to stay out of other people's business. By the end of the week, Marcus called an emergency meeting with the shelter's small staff. "We're looking at a 30% drop in funding," he announced grimly. "If this continues, we'll have to start cutting programs within a month. In 3 months. He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone understood the implications. "What about the legal defense?" asked Javier, the shelter's youth counselor. "Pro bono lawyers have offered to help," Eleanor replied. "But they're small firms without the resources to match Whitman's legal team, and the burden of proof is on us." That evening, after the other children had gone to bed, Marcus found Tyler sitting alone in the small library, a worn copy of The Little Prince open on his lap. "That's one of my favorites," Marcus said, sitting beside him. Tyler nodded. "I like the fox. He says what matters is invisible." Marcus smiled sadly. "He's right about that." "People are scared of Mr. Whitman," Tyler observed, his voice soft but certain. "I can tell. Everyone talks differently now. They look at their phones more, they're worried." Marcus was continually amazed by Tyler's perceptiveness. The boy seemed to absorb emotional undercurrents that most adults missed entirely. "Yes," Marcus admitted. "He's a powerful man and he's very angry." "Because of me?" "No, Tyler, because of himself. Because sometimes when people look at others, they're really seeing reflections of parts of themselves they don't like." Tyler considered this. "Like when you look in a dirty mirror." "Exactly like that." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Tyler spoke again. "My mom would say that truth always finds a way out, like water. It can go around rocks or wear them down, but it always keeps moving." Marcus felt a lump form in his throat. "Your mom sounds very wise." "She is. Tyler said simply, returning to his book. The next morning brought another blow. The local newspaper published a front-page story examining the growing controversy around the White Horse Boy case. The article presented both sides as equally valid, questioning the authenticity of the viral video and highlighting Richard Whitman's contributions to the community, the jobs his development projects had created, the tax revenue they generated. There was even a quote from a digital media expert suggesting that video manipulation was increasingly common in our polarized society. Marcus threw the newspaper into the recycling bin, disgusted by the false equivalence. But the damage was done. Doubt had been introduced into the narrative, and doubt was all Whitman needed to sway public opinion. Even Amber Reynolds finally succumbed to the pressure. While she didn't publicly denounce Tyler or Horizon House, she released a carefully worded statement on her social media platforms. While I continue to support children's causes across America, I believe it's important to let the legal process unfold without interference. I will be taking a step back from commenting on ongoing legal matters. The statement was immediately recognized for what it was, a retreat, a concession to corporate pressure. Her followers expressed disappointment, but few could truly blame her. Standing against the tide was costly, and few had the resources or courage to pay that price. As October turned to November, a chill settled over Millbrook Heights that went beyond the changing season. Horizon House began cutting programs, first the weekend field trips, then the tutoring sessions, and finally, they had to let go of 2 part-time staff members. The remaining children sensed the tension, becoming more anxious and volatile. Only Tyler maintained his quiet, observant demeanor, though Marcus noticed he had started keeping his few possessions packed in his backpack, as if preparing for inevitable departure. Then, on a gray Wednesday morning when hope seemed most distant, Marcus received a phone call that would change everything. "Is this Marcus Daniels?" a gruff male voice asked. "Yes, this is he." "My name's Frank Miller. I worked security at the Millbrook terminal for 18 years before they downsized last month." Marcus sat up straighter. "Mr. Miller, how can I help you?" "It's more about how I can help you," Frank's voice lowered. "I've been watching this whole mess with the Whitman lawsuit. I've been keeping quiet because, well, I need a reference for my next job, and the terminal management doesn't want to." "Get involved." Marcus held his breath, hardly daring to hope. "But I can't sleep at night," Frank continued. "That boy, he was there for weeks. I used to slip him sandwiches from my lunch when my supervisor wasn't looking. And I was there that day when Whitman kicked him." "Mr. Miller," Marcus said carefully, "are you saying you witnessed the incident?" "Better than that," Frank replied. "I've got the security camera footage. The terminal's got cameras covering every angle of the main concourse. It's all there. The kick, the shouting, everything. And I made a copy before I left." Marcus's hand tightened around the phone. "Mr. Miller, would you be willing to share that footage?" There was a pause on the line. "It could cost me any chance at a reference. I understand, but it could also save this shelter and clear Tyler's name." Another pause, longer this time, then, "Meet me at Riverside Park near the old bandstand. Tomorrow noon. Come alone." The line went dead. Marcus sat motionless, the phone still pressed to his ear, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and trepidation. If Frank Miller was telling the truth, they had the key to unraveling Whitman's deception. But Marcus had been working with vulnerable populations long enough to know that hope was a dangerous thing when not tempered with caution. He set the phone down slowly, his mind racing with possibilities and risks. Outside his office window, the first snowflakes of the season began to fall, delicate crystals that dissolved the moment they touched the ground, beautiful, fragile, and fleeting, like the chance they'd just been given. Riverside Park lay under a thin blanket of snow, the old bandstand standing like a forgotten monument to more prosperous times. Marcus arrived 15 minutes early, his breath forming clouds in the cold air as he paced the path near their meeting spot. His mind cycled through possibilities. What if Frank didn't show? What if the footage wasn't clear enough? What if this was somehow a trap set by Whitman's team? At precisely noon, a stocky man in a worn parka approached, his hands thrust deep in his pockets and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. "Mr. Daniels?" he asked, glancing around nervously. Marcus nodded. "Mr. Miller, thank you for coming." Frank Miller looked exactly like a man who had spent nearly 2 decades watching security monitors. Observant eyes set in a face accustomed to long periods of vigilance. "I can't stay long," he said, his voice low. "I've got a job interview across town in an hour." "I understand. Did you bring the footage?" Frank nodded, pulling a USB drive from his pocket. "It's all here. 4 camera angles, time-stamped, full audio. The system at the terminal is old but reliable. No one can claim this was doctored." Marcus reached for the drive, but Frank held it back for a moment. "You should know something. I already tried taking this to the police. They said it's a civil matter, not criminal. And the terminal management refused to release the footage officially. They don't want to antagonize Whitman. He's buying property all around the terminal area. So this is off the books. I made a copy before turning in my equipment. Technically, I wasn't supposed to, but..." Frank shrugged. "Sometimes doing what's right isn't the same as following the rules." He handed over the USB drive. "There's one more thing. When you watch this, pay attention to what happens after the incident. There's something there that might help the boy." Before Marcus could ask what he meant, Frank glanced at his watch. "I've got to go. Good luck." He turned and walked away quickly, disappearing among the barren trees. Marcus stood alone in the cold, the USB drive feeling impossibly heavy in his hand. He hurried back to his car, his mind racing with possibilities. Back at Horizon House, Marcus locked himself in his office and plugged the drive into his computer. The footage opened in 4 separate windows, each showing a different angle of the terminal's main concourse. He found the timestamp corresponding to the day of the incident and began to watch. The black and white footage was remarkably clear. There was Tyler, sitting quietly near the ticket counter. And then Richard Whitman entered the frame, pulling his expensive luggage. The interaction unfolded exactly as the viral video had shown, Whitman approaching Tyler, delivering a sharp kick to the boy's leg, shouting the words that had now become infamous. "Get out of here, kid! This place isn't for you!" The audio was crisp, the visuals unmistakable. There could be no claim of manipulation or misrepresentation. Marcus felt a surge of vindication, but then remembered Frank's parting words. He continued watching. After, Tyler walked out to meet Walter and the white horse. The cameras captured something else. Whitman approaching a terminal employee, Frank Miller himself, and engaging in what appeared to be a heated conversation. With the audio enhanced, Marcus could hear Whitman clearly. "That boy's been loitering here for weeks. Why haven't you people removed him? Do you know who I am? My company is investing millions in this neighborhood." Frank's response was measured but firm. "Sir, he's just a child waiting for someone. He's not causing any trouble. He's an eyesore." This kind of vagrant presence is exactly what's holding back development in this area. I've got investors touring next week, and I can't have them seeing this kind of blight. The exchange continued for another minute, with Whitman growing increasingly agitated and threatening to speak to whoever runs this dump about Frank's job. Finally, Whitman stormed off, but not before declaring loudly enough for nearby passengers to hear, "This neighborhood will never improve until we clean out the riffraff. My development will change everything." Marcus sat back, stunned. This wasn't just documentation of the physical incident. It was evidence of Whitman's broader attitude and intentions. The developer had revealed his true character and his plans for the neighborhood in a moment of unguarded arrogance. For a community already anxious about gentrification and displacement, these words would be damning. Marcus immediately called Eleanor into his office. When she saw the footage, tears welled in her eyes. "This changes everything," she whispered. "We need to get this to our lawyers immediately." Within hours, the shelter's legal team had reviewed the footage and confirmed its authenticity and admissibility. By that evening, they had filed a countersuit against Whitman for fraudulent legal claims and had submitted the evidence to the court. They also prepared a carefully worded press release, scheduled for the following morning. Marcus stayed late at the shelter that night, making sure every detail was perfect. As he was about to leave, he found Tyler sitting on the stairs, clearly waiting for him. "Did you find something to help us?" the boy asked. Marcus shouldn't have been surprised by Tyler's intuition anymore, but it still caught him off guard. "Yes," he admitted, "some very important evidence." Tyler nodded as if he had expected nothing less. "The truth always finds a way," he said, echoing his earlier words about his mother's wisdom. "Yes, it does," Marcus agreed, sitting beside him on the step. "Tyler, tomorrow might be a bit chaotic. There will be more news reports, more attention. Are you prepared for that?" The boy considered the question seriously. "Will it help find my mom?" "It might. The more people who see your story, the better chance someone who knows your mom will recognize you." Tyler seemed satisfied with this answer. "Then I'm ready." The next morning, Channel 7 News broke the story. Exclusive: security footage contradicts developers' claims in White Horse Boy case. The station aired carefully selected portions of the footage, focusing on the kick and the verbal abuse, but also including Whitman's subsequent rant about cleaning out the riffraff. The effect was immediate and electric. Social media exploded. With renewed outrage, this time armed with irrefutable evidence, the hashtag #Whitman lied trended nationally. Other news outlets scrambled to catch up, reaching out to Horizon House for statements and interviews. By midday, the shelter had received calls from 3 major law firms offering pro bono representation, and donations began pouring in through their website, which crashed twice from the unprecedented traffic. Even more significant was the response from Whitman's business associates. The investors he had mentioned in the footage, a consortium of out-of-state developers planning a major project in Millbrook Heights, issued a statement reconsidering their partnership in light of recent revelations. The mayor's office, which had previously remained neutral, announced an investigation into whether Whitman Development had followed proper community engagement protocols in their planning applications. Lisa Wong arrived at Horizon House that afternoon with a full camera crew, requesting an interview with Tyler and Marcus. This time, Channel 7's management had given her complete editorial control. "We want to make this right," she told Marcus off camera. "The station shouldn't have wavered in our support." The interview was different from the first one, more confident, more hopeful. Tyler spoke about his continued belief that he would reunite with his mother. "She's looking for me," he said with certainty, "and now maybe she'll find me faster." Marcus explained the shelter's mission and the challenges they had faced during the legal battle. "This was never just about one incident," he emphasized. "It's about how we value every person in our community, regardless of their circumstances." The segment aired that evening to record viewership, but the most unexpected development came from Amber Reynolds. Having watched the security footage and read the growing backlash against Whitman, she made a decision that surprised even her own management team. During a live stream to her millions of followers, she removed her makeup on camera, something she had never done before, and spoke directly into the lens. "I made a mistake," she admitted, her bare face revealing a vulnerability rarely seen by her audience. "I allowed fear of losing sponsors to dictate my actions. I stepped back when I should have stepped up. Today I'm announcing that I'm severing ties with any brand that pressured me to distance myself from Tyler Mason and Horizon House. And I'm doubling my original commitment to fund Tyler's education and support the shelter's programs." The stream received more engagement than anything she had ever posted. While some sponsors indeed dropped her, others, sensing the shifting public sentiment, renewed their contracts with explicit support for her charitable work. New brands reached out, eager to associate with what was quickly becoming a powerful narrative of integrity and redemption. By the end of the week, Richard Whitman's lawsuit lay in tatters. His legal team advised an immediate withdrawal, but the damage to his reputation was already severe. Investors pulled out of his Millbrook Heights project, and longtime business partners began distancing themselves. The local newspaper, which had previously presented a balanced view of the controversy, now ran an investigative piece examining Whitman's history of aggressive development tactics and community displacement. But perhaps the most significant consequence came from an unexpected quarter. James Harrington, Whitman's minority business partner and longtime friend, called an emergency board meeting of Whitman Development Corp. "This isn't just about bad publicity," he told the assembled executives and investors. "This is about who we are as a company and as people." Years ago, I warned Richard that his approach to community development was both ethically problematic and ultimately unsustainable. Today, we're seeing the consequences of ignoring that advice. The board voted to place Whitman on administrative leave, pending a full review of the company's practices. Harrington was named interim CEO, with a mandate to rebuild the company's relationship with the communities it served. For Tyler, these corporate machinations meant little. What mattered was that Horizon House's doors remained open, that the other children continued to receive the support they needed, and that his story was being shared widely enough that it might reach his mother wherever she was. What no one could have anticipated was that the security footage would yield one more crucial piece of information, a detail so small that it was initially overlooked in the drama of the main revelation. In the background of one camera angle, barely visible but present, was a bulletin board near the terminal's entrance. And pinned to that board was a missing person flyer with a woman's photograph. A woman whose features, upon digital enhancement, bore a striking resemblance to Tyler Mason. The search for Sarah Mason was about to take a dramatic turn. It was Lisa Wong who first noticed it. Reviewing the security footage for a follow-up story, she paused on a frame that showed the terminal's community bulletin board. Among the faded bus schedules and local advertisements was a missing person flyer. Something about the grainy image caught her attention, perhaps the way the woman in the photo seemed to be looking directly at the camera, her eyes conveying a quiet desperation that transcended the poor print quality. Lisa asked her production team to enhance the image, and when they did, the resemblance was unmistakable. The woman had Tyler's eyes, his determined chin, the same slight tilt of the head. The flyer identified her as Sarah Mason, last seen in Henderson, and listed a contact number for the Henderson Police Department. Lisa immediately called Marcus. "I think I've found Tyler's mother," she said without preamble. "Or rather, it looks like she's been searching for him." Marcus felt his heart race. "Are you certain?" "The resemblance is striking, and the name matches. Sarah Mason. There's a flyer in the bus terminal, right on the bulletin board. It's been there the whole time, but no one connected it to Tyler until now." The irony was almost painful. Mother and son searching for each other, physically separated by hundreds of miles, yet connected by the same bus terminal where Tyler had been waiting. While Tyler had been looking for his mother, she had been looking for him through the traditional channels of missing persons reports. After ending the call with Lisa, Marcus sat in his office, gathering his thoughts before approaching Tyler with this development. He needed to be careful. Hope was a powerful but fragile thing, especially for a child who had already endured so much uncertainty. But before he could formulate a plan, there was a knock on his door. Eleanor entered, her face bearing an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. "There's someone here to see Tyler," she said quietly. "A woman. She's at the front desk." Marcus stood so quickly his chair rolled back and hit the wall. "Who?" "She says her name is Sarah Mason. She saw the news last night." The world seemed to tilt slightly on its axis. "She's here? Now?" Eleanor nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "She has identification. And Marcus, she looks just like him." Marcus found himself walking toward the front desk in a state of suspended disbelief. The woman waiting there was thin, with dark circles under her eyes, suggesting many sleepless nights. Her clothes were worn but clean, her hands clasped tightly, together to stop their trembling. When she saw Marcus, she stepped forward. "I'm Sarah Mason," she said, her voice steady despite her obvious emotion. "I believe my son is here, Tyler." Marcus nodded, studying her face. The resemblance to Tyler was indeed striking. "How did you find us?" "I've been searching for weeks. I saw the news report last night. They showed his face clearly for the first time. I've been calling police stations and shelters across 3 states, but no one had any information until now." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small photo album. "I have pictures, birth certificate, everything to prove I'm his mother." Marcus looked through the album, photos of Tyler as a baby, as a toddler, standing proudly next to his mother on his first day of school. There could be no doubt. "Ms. Mason, can you tell me what happened, how you and Tyler became separated?" Sarah took a deep breath. "We were living in Henderson. I worked at St. Luke's Hospital as a nurse's aide. We were doing okay until I got sick, pneumonia that turned into something worse. I lost my job because I missed too many shifts. Then we lost our apartment." Her voice cracked slightly. "We were staying at a friend's place temporarily. I had a job interview in Fairview, about 50 miles from Henderson. I couldn't take Tyler with me, so I told him to wait at the Henderson bus terminal. I promised I'd be back the same day." She wiped away a tear. "But the interview went long, and then they asked me to start immediately. I called my friend to check on Tyler, but she said he never came back to her apartment. When I finally got back to Henderson that night, he was gone. Someone at the terminal thought they remembered seeing a boy get on the Millbrook Heights bus by mistake. The pieces were falling into place. Tyler, waiting at the wrong gate, boarding the wrong bus, ending up alone in a strange city." Sarah continued, her words coming faster now. "I filed a missing person report. I put up flyers everywhere. I called every shelter and police station in Millbrook Heights, but no one had seen him. I've been working double shifts at the new job just to save enough money to keep searching. And all this time, Tyler was waiting for you at our terminal," Marcus said softly. "He said you told him to wait where there are buses if you ever got separated." Sarah nodded, more tears falling now. "That was our plan. I never imagined he'd end up so far away." Marcus made a quick decision. "Ms. Mason, I believe you are who you say you are. All the documentation seems in order. But I'd like to prepare Tyler before you see him. This will be overwhelming for him." Sarah wiped her eyes. "Of course, I understand. Please wait here. I won't be long." Marcus found Tyler in the shelter's library, reading as he often did during quiet afternoons. The boy looked up as Marcus entered, immediately sensing that something important had happened. "Tyler," Marcus said, sitting beside him, "I have some news. It's about your mom." Tyler's eyes widened, the book forgotten in his lap. "Did you find her?" "Actually," Marcus said, his voice gentle, "she found you. She's here, Tyler. She's waiting to see you." For a moment, Tyler didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even seem to breathe. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "She came?" "Yes. She saw you on the news. She's been looking for you the whole time." Tyler stood up, the book sliding to the floor unnoticed. "Where is she?" "At the front desk." "But Tyler, it's okay to take a minute if you need." But Tyler was already moving, walking with purpose toward the front of the building, Marcus following close behind. When they reached the reception area, Tyler stopped abruptly. Sarah stood from her chair, her hands covering her mouth as she saw her son. "Mom," Tyler said, his voice small but clear. "Tyler," Sarah breathed, and then they were moving toward each other, the distance between them closing after weeks of separation. Their embrace was fierce, desperate, as if each feared the other might disappear again if they didn't hold tight. "Enough?" Marcus stepped back, giving them privacy in this most public of reunions. Around them, shelter staff and residents gathered, drawn by the palpable emotion filling the space. "I waited for you," Tyler said into his mother's shoulder. "I know you did, baby. I'm so sorry. I've been looking everywhere for you." They held each other for a long time, murmuring reassurances, before Sarah finally looked up at Marcus over her son's head. "Thank you," she mouthed silently. "Thank you for keeping him safe." The reunion of Tyler and Sarah Mason made headlines across the country, a moment of pure joy in a story that had already captured the public's imagination. Lisa Wong's exclusive interview with mother and son drew the highest ratings in Channel 7's history. Social media exploded with celebrations, the hashtag #TylerFound trending nationwide. But amid the public spectacle, practical realities remained. Sarah had a job in Fairview, but nowhere to live. Tyler had been thriving at Horizon House, but needed to be with his mother. The solution came from an unexpected source. James Harrington, now interim CEO of Whitman Development, reached out to Marcus with a proposal. "We own an apartment building in Fairview," he explained, "recently renovated, close to public transportation. We'd like to offer Ms. Mason and Tyler a 2-bedroom unit at reduced rent for the first year, with an option to stay long-term if it suits them. When Marcus expressed surprise at the offer, Harrington was frank. This isn't charity, it's amends. Richard's actions hurt that boy and nearly destroyed your shelter. The company needs to acknowledge that and make it right. The offer extended beyond housing. Harrington announced a new corporate initiative. Whitman Development would allocate 10% of all future projects to affordable housing and would establish a community advisory board to ensure development plans respected the needs and character of existing neighborhoods. The Tyler Mason case has forced us to re-examine our values as a company, Harrington told the press. We've been pursuing growth at the expense of community. That changes today. In a private meeting with Sarah and Tyler, he was more personal. I should have spoken up sooner, he admitted. I saw what Richard was becoming, but I valued our friendship and business relationship over doing what was right. I won't make that mistake again. Tyler, who had remained quiet during most of the meeting, finally spoke. My mom says that people can change if they really want to. Harrington smiled. Your mom is a wise woman. As for Richard Whitman himself, the consequences of his actions continued to unfold. The board's investigation revealed a pattern of ethical breaches that went beyond his treatment of Tyler. He was ultimately removed from his position permanently and faced significant personal and professional repercussions. But even in this, there was an unexpected development. 6 months after the incident, Richard requested a meeting with Tyler and Sarah. After much consideration, they agreed, with Marcus present as a support person. The meeting took place at a neutral location, a community center halfway between Millbrook Heights and Fairview. Richard arrived alone, without lawyers or assistants, dressed in casual clothes rather than his customary suit. He seemed smaller somehow, less imposing than the man who had once kicked a homeless boy for daring to exist in his path. I want to apologize, he said without preamble. What I did was inexcusable. There's no justification for treating anyone, especially a child, the way I treated you. Tyler studied him with that penetrating gaze that seemed to see beyond surfaces. Why did you do it? Richard looked down at his hands. I was angry that day. A deal had fallen through. I was worried about what my investors would think, but that's not a reason, it's an excuse. The truth is, I'd stopped seeing people as people. Everyone was either useful to me or in my way. He looked at Tyler directly. You weren't a child to me that day. You were just an obstacle, and that says everything about who I had become. The conversation that followed was difficult, honest, and ultimately healing for all involved. Tyler, with wisdom beyond his years, listened more than he spoke. Sarah, protective but fair, challenged Richard to translate his remorse into meaningful change. And Richard, stripped of power and pretense, began the long process of rediscovering his humanity. 2 years passed. Millbrook Heights transformed, not through gentrification, but through revitalization. The old bus terminal was renovated rather than demolished, its historic character preserved, while its functionality was enhanced. A new wing was added to Horizon House, allowing the shelter to serve twice as many children. Walter Thompson's horse riding business expanded into a full therapeutic riding program, with Tyler, now a confident 12-year-old, volunteering on weekends. Sarah completed nursing school, returning to her true vocation with a position at Fairview Memorial Hospital, and on a bright spring morning, the city gathered for the unveiling of a new installation at the entrance to the renovated terminal. Not a traditional statue, but a modern art piece, a white horse cast in translucent material that caught the light, with a small figure seated upon it, facing forward. No plaques, no names, just the image, powerful in its simplicity. Mayor Rodriguez addressed the assembled crowd. This installation represents more than one moment or one story. It reminds us that sometimes the most important journeys are not the ones that take us to new destinations, but the ones that bring us home, to our families, to our communities, and to our better selves. Tyler and Sarah stood in the crowd, holding hands, Marcus beside them, watching as the morning sun illuminated the statue, sending prisms of light dancing across the terminal entrance. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered. Tyler nodded, his eyes on the statue, but his mind perhaps on the journey that had brought them to this moment. "It looks like it's about to go somewhere," he observed, "but also like it's already arrived." Marcus smiled at the paradox, so typical of Tyler's unique perspective. "What do you think it means?" he asked. "To me?" Tyler considered the question. "I think it means that everyone's waiting for something, but while you're waiting, you're also living, and sometimes the waiting itself is the most important part." As the crowd dispersed after the ceremony, a young woman approached them hesitantly. It took Marcus a moment to recognize Amanda Chen, the college student who had recorded the original viral video 2 years earlier. "I hope you don't mind," she said. "I just wanted to say hello. I've followed your story all this time." "We wouldn't have a story if not for you," Sarah replied warmly. "You stopped when others looked away." Amanda shook her head. "I just recorded what happened. The real change came after." She glanced at Tyler. "You know, I'm studying journalism. Now, your story made me realize the power of bearing witness." The conversation continued as they walked together toward the new cafe that had opened adjacent to the terminal, a social enterprise that employed former Horizon House residents and donated a portion of profits back to the shelter. Around them, the city bustled with renewed energy, not the frantic pace of gentrification, but the steady rhythm of a community finding its balance. And as they settled at a table by the window, Tyler looked out at the street where a white horse had once paused, creating a moment that changed everything. "Mom," he said suddenly, "do you think coincidences are real, or is everything connected somehow?" Sarah exchanged a glance with Marcus, both of them recognizing the philosophical depth that had always set Tyler apart. "I think," she answered carefully, "that sometimes the universe creates perfect moments when we need them most. Whether you call that coincidence or connection doesn't matter as much as recognizing them when they happen." Tyler nodded, satisfied with the answer. And as the conversation flowed around him, he watched the people passing by the window, each carrying their own stories, their own struggles, their own possibilities for transformation. In that moment, in that ordinary cafe on an ordinary day, the extraordinary journey that had begun with a cruel kick and a white horse completed its circle, not as an ending, but as a continuation, proof that even the darkest storms eventually pass, revealing skies washed clean and bright with promise. For Tyler Mason, the boy who had waited with such patience and hope, home was no longer a destination to reach, but a truth he carried within himself.